One of the biggest problems in photography is that we already own some of the best lenses and some of the best processors, and the camera manufacturers, no matter which camera manufacturer, cannot match them because this lens here and this processor in here is far superior to anything that any of the manufacturers can come up with. Our eyes have become evolved to see things the way that our experiences have taught us to see them. Now, we touched upon this a little bit last year, a few videos ago, when we talked about Adele and how our brain taught us to see certain pictures of her a little bit differently than they actually were. And this comes into play when we are out in the landscape looking across a scene. Our brain white balances out what our eyes are seeing, and sometimes the colours that get represented in our cameras don't really truly represent how we are seeing them. And one of the biggest reasons for that is direction of light. Our brains and our eyes are so sensitive to this that often we colour correct for things as it happens. Our cameras don't do that. And sometimes we need to be able to spot when our cameras aren't doing that so that we can make it right ourselves. In today's video, I'm going to show you that process in action, how the direction of light changes the colour, how things are not always what we see them to be, and how we can resolve these issues with a bit of post-processing. So we've got our images here, and this is of a whiteboard I've popped up in the shadow of this building here, that, as you can see from this image, is being lit in this direction from the left of this image. You can see the light illuminate in front of the building there. We're going to set up at the back of the building here where we are in shadow. You can tell that we've got exactly the same amount of light hitting it because on this side of the whiteboard we are at ISO 400 f4 1/160th, and on the other side of the whiteboard we're at ISO 400 f4 1/160th, and you can see in the histogram that we have pretty much, damn it, exactly the same exposure. And what resides in shadow area are cooler hues, cooler tones, cooler colour. So even though this board looks white, I know that if we drag the luminance slider of the blue down, then we're going to see that it's actually more of a blue colour, and we've got a pale blue across the board. If we go into our other image and do exactly the same thing, so we're still in shadow, but this time we are facing into the direction of reflection. Let's pull the luminance slider down, and you'll see that it also turned blue, but it's a much deeper blue. And we can solve that by using our white balance point, and doing this on a board like this, which is supposed to be white, is very easy. I'm just going to take my eyedropper tool and hit it in and around there, because our board is now white. If we take that onto the other side and do the same thing, and we've got the same effect, we've balanced out the colours. We've got now two different white balance temperatures, 8,300 Kelvin, 11,250. So what's at play here? Why have we got two different temperatures even though the subject has remained in exactly the same place? The only thing that's changed is where I'm stood in relation to it. Well, it's all to do with direction of light. Whilst one side of the board is getting all of its light from reflections, i.e. the thing that's reflecting the sun in this instance is the sky. On the other side, whilst we're still in shadow and getting those cool tones, we haven't got as much reflected light. And that means that we've got a warmer tone to it. That's why it's a lighter shade of blue. We're going to look at an image from the Lake District. I've chosen it because it's got a real dramatic colour cast on it. At first glance, everything looks normal. You might start editing this image with some white balance and some exposure, etc., and do whatever you do on there. But let's again just head down to our luminance slider just here. Now, what we've got going on is we've got some direct light from the sun, which is in this area here. Most of the percentage of the light hitting this is direct from the light source. And we can see that because this area here contains mostly warmer tones. So if I pop the orange up and the yellows up, you'll see that that affects this area here. It isn't, though, affecting this area here. So let's just reset that and now look at the back. And we'll see that the back isn't affected at all when I move those sliders up. Bring those back. Now let's look at the back, and let's go onto the cooler tones, and let's go with the blue. And you're going to see that the cooler tones now are affecting the back, not the warmer tones. And if I pull that up, you can see just what a difference the blue luminance slider makes on that area of the image. We've got indirect light that's being reflected off the sky and lighting up all of this area. If we want to edit our image up into the kind of style that I like to do, we might end up with a shot that looks a little bit like this, where we've got these warmer tones that are absolutely what I was seeing at the time and why I took the shot. But if we edit the image as a whole and by itself, we're going to end up with a background that looks like this, and that's a little bit weird. Now this is the final image, and you can see there the difference in what's happened here in the background and the more natural tones that we've got on this edit here. And what I've done to achieve that is I have set a white balance in 3 different areas. So we've got, there's a few masks here, but we've got a white balance for this front part of the shot in this mask here, in this linear gradient. So we've got a white balance here, and you can see that I've dropped the temperature and just up the tint ever so slightly to counter that. We've got a separate white balance for the sky, where I've dropped the temperature. Again, just added a little bit of saturation into that as well. And then we've got our overall white balance, which balances out the tones in the back here. And now our blue background has actually got some natural tones in it, and we can start to pick out the oranges of bare land and the greens of the grass, etc., that we've got in the mountain range in the background. So now we know that when it comes to direction of light, it's not just about where shadows are going to be cast, but it's also about how our cameras are going to interpret the colours within those shadows, whether we are getting direct light, whether we're getting reflected light, and the colour cast that will come because of those factors. And because we know to look out for that, we can now correct for that in post-production as part of our workflow. Now, don't forget you can pick up a copy of my first lot of collections from the Peak District National Parks, over 40 images in there, a little bit of backstory about how I got started in landscape photography. I'll leave the link in the description down below, and if you want to see for yourself just how your brain alters an image, then click this video here and Adele will show you. I've been Dave, and this has been Let's Click Photography, and I'll see you guys on the next one pretty damn soon.